Friday, December 20th, 2024. We welcome you into the Friday edition of The Lunch Break. Chris Schubert with you for the next 2 hours. Appreciate you joining us. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation. And producer Corey, we have a word of the day. The word of the day on the show is lucky, because there is a team in town that is very lucky today, because that team was going to get all of my anger to start the show. They were going to be the subject of our daily special. I was going to do the thing I said yesterday I didn't want to do with a specific team. We were barreling down towards that anger. It might have bordered on a rant. That is where we were going to start the show today. We are not going to start the show that way. And so lucky is the word I will use for that team, because maybe by the time we get to them today, I will be a little bit less angry than I was last night, than I was when I got here this morning. So lucky is the word we will use to describe the Phoenix Suns, because they are not the topic for today's daily special. Unfortunately, it's a baseball story.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Well, we wait to see what the numbers look like, and that will determine, I think, how angry you should be today as a Diamondbacks fan. Because Christian Walker has agreed to a deal with the Houston Astros. About a half an hour ago, it was first reported that they were nearing a deal, that they were close to a deal. And then just before we got on the air, it was official that they agreed to terms. It does look like we have those numbers. And I think you have every right to be angry today if these numbers are the reported numbers. According to Bob Nightingale of USA Today, Christian Walker has agreed to a 3-year, $60 million contract with the Houston Astros. A $20 million AAV for the former Diamondbacks first baseman. And so I, not like you needed this from me, I give you permission today to be angry that the Diamondbacks decided they were uninterested in playing in that deep end. I, on this show, said it might be closer to $25 million a season. There were reports that it was going to need to be 4 years, $100 million to land Christian Walker. It wasn't that. It wasn't $25 million a season. It was $20 million a season for the next 3 years. I'm going to need somebody to explain this one to me, because this is not breaking the bank. We talked about how this team doesn't really spend normally over $100 million in free agency, and we were dubious. We were suspicious of Christian Walker being the player that they were going to be willing to do that for. Was he going to join Zach Greinke as the only two Diamondbacks to ever get $100 million or more in free agency for the Arizona Diamondbacks? Would that be a 34-year-old right-handed hitting first baseman who, yes, Christian Walker provides a lot of great things. Hits for a ton of home runs, provides Gold Glove caliber defense, is a nice middle of the order bat. He checks a lot of boxes. He's going to help out the Houston Astros a ton. But he's 34 years old, very much on the back nine, maybe the back three of his career. And so would the Diamondbacks want to reach to that level? Would they want to go to $100 million? Would they want to give that fourth year to pay him through his age 38 season? We were suspicious of that. They would have to come to the determination that this was the guy. This was a guy they absolutely had to have. That was under the context of 4 years, $100 million, paying $25 million a season. It looks as if it's going to come in well below that. 3 years, $60 million. I tell you right now, I think that is a massive mistake for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if you want to point to other deals that they made that put them in this position, that put them in this spot, where they couldn't afford to go after Christian Walker because Jordan Montgomery's $20 million is on the books, because Eduardo Rodriguez got a 4-year deal, because of the other long-term commitments that they've made as a franchise, I'm not sure if I can accept that as the excuse today. Because that is a disappointment. I could have justified not wanting to go to $100 million. I could have justified not going to the 4 years. And I don't know Christian Walker personally, but I'll just take a guess here as a radio host. If you offered him the same deal that Houston gave him, I think he's coming back to the Diamondbacks for 3 years, $60. And so to not go there, and I don't even think it's going there. That's the going rate for a first baseman. And so now the work needs to be done. Now the work starts. Now this organization and Mike Hazen have to fill in the holes. They have to replace 30 home run power. They have to replace Gold Glove caliber defense. That's the task they now set upon themselves because they felt this was not where they wanted to go. And I'm here to tell you, we thought 4-100 was a bridge too far. 360 apparently was a bridge too far. So you know what? Be angry today. I'm not going to fault you. 480-864-1060. You're upset. I want to hear about it because I don't blame you for being upset today. This is a team won 89 games a year ago. This is a team 2 seasons ago was in the World Series, a chance to win a championship. Christian Walker, a major part of both of those runs. Even though they missed the playoffs last year, the offense, a main reason why they were in things in September. The main reason why they won 89 games. This was the best offense in terms of run production in the National League last year. And the Diamondbacks felt that $20 million a season for the next 3 years was not where their budget was comfortable. But remember what we told you weeks ago. Everybody wanted to talk about. Oh, they're going to be close to that number that they were after the World Series. What they spent last offseason. They're going to be able to just reinvest that money. Really? This is the limitations that they have on their payroll. Because if they signed Christian Walker to $20 million, which I felt would have been incredibly reasonable, it would have taken everything else off the table unless they moved to Zach Allen, unless they moved to Jordan Montgomery. This is proof that they are limited in what they are able to do. This is your notice. This is your example. The Diamondbacks are not going to be able to fill all of these needs shopping in the top end of the market. They're just not going to be able to do it. They told you today by not matching this offer, and we'll see if they ultimately did. We'll see even if they made an offer, what it looked like. But my immediate reaction here, and that's what you're getting because this news just broke, 3 years, 60, Diamondbacks should have been all over that. Diamondbacks should have been in the mix for that. You now have to replace 30-plus home run power and Gold Glove caliber defense. Now, here is what I will give them. They deserve the rest of the offseason before we really get on them. Let's see what they do. They have to pivot. We watched the Yankees do this when they lost Juan Soto. We saw the Red Sox do this when they missed out on Max Fried. Their pivot was Garrett Crochet. Both fan bases, the Yankee fan base and the Red Sox fan base, happy with the pivots that their team has made. So we have to allow the time for Mike Hazen to make those adjustments, to make those pivots, to make those signings. Because let's look at this from a numbers perspective. Their estimated final payroll last year, according to Fangraphs, was $173 million. So if we take that as the number that they have available to them this offseason, right? And there have been reports that they can spend close to that, right? That they will be right up against that. So let's give them the utmost benefit of the doubt and say they can go right up to that $173 million number. Right now, according to Fangraphs, they sit at $149 million. If you gave $20 million to Christian Walker, that would give you $4 million to address DH, to potentially get another outfielder, although they did make a signing, Christian Pache. Feels like a high-quality depth option. Former top prospect just a couple years ago. Really hasn't been able to hit at the big league level. Provides great defense. Just hasn't been able to stick with the bat. But they need an outfielder. They need a DH. They need a first baseman. But in this example, let's say they brought back Christian Walker. They'd have $4 million to do all of those things. And also add a high-leverage reliever. That's the limitations that they're under. They don't have an endless supply of money the way the Dodgers, the way the Yankees, the way the Mets do. And so this is why you needed to trade Jordan Montgomery. This is why we said maybe you should consider trading Zach Allen and free up that money. And it was just yesterday on this show that we said, hey, you can wait this market out. You don't have to pivot until something breaks. You're fine. Something has broken. Christian Walker is no longer an option at first base. He is gone. I think that is a deal the Diamondbacks should have done. I think they should have made that move and then moved somebody else, whether it's Jordan Montgomery, whether it's Zach Allen, to free up the resources to do everything else. Because if you traded Jordan Montgomery and you paid half the salary and you freed up about $11 million, that would give you $15 million for a DH and a reliever. I think they could have taken care of that with $15 million. Now, they have to take their $24 million and get a first baseman, a DH, and a reliever. Let's see what they do. Let's see what the pivot is. Is it a reunion with Paul Goldschmidt? Is it Carlos Santana? Is it going platoon at both first base and DH? Let's see what the pivot looks like. But I'm not going to fault anybody today for being angry. The first base market didn't develop the way we all thought it was going to, at least not with what the mark that Christian Walker set, $20 million AAV. I thought it was going to be 25 or more. I thought 375 was going to be the number, at least. I said that here on this show. It wasn't. Got him for $15 million cheaper. And a team that won 89 games a year ago got worse today. They got worse today by not wanting to do that deal, or by not attempting to do a deal close to that to bring Christian Walker back. They got worse today. Will they be worse on opening day? That's for the rest of the offseason to answer. Mike Hazen has to answer the bell, because this is not a team that now can all of a sudden change course. They're a competitive baseball team. Almost a 90-game winner a year ago. World Series 2 years before that. This is a championship window. This is a playoff contention window. So you got to pivot, and you got to pivot quickly, because now that the market is set at first base, I think Pete Alonso is going to go pretty quickly after that. I think you're going to see a lot of names in that market move relatively quickly. So that's where we start today's show. A little baseball here on a Football Friday. Christian Walker is no more. We don't have to play the what-if game. We don't have to wonder if he is still in the Diamondbacks' plans. He is no longer in their plans. He is going to the Astros, who basically are going to say goodbye to Alex Bregman at this point. I don't think they're going to pay Bregman what he's asking for, and also $60 million to Christian Walker. So Bregman is now going to go someplace else more than likely. But Christian Walker reportedly agreeing to a deal to the Houston Astros, and so now it's game on. Let's see it, Mike Hazen. I believe you're the best general manager here in town. I think if we were ranking all the executives, you are the top of the list. Been saying it for years. Here's your chance to show it, because you're going to have a fan base that is extremely disappointed and extremely upset today, and I don't blame them. So what do? You got to show us something now. Here's your chance to fill in these holes and try to put together a better roster. And I think it can be done. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. But I think they can put together a better, more well-rounded roster. But they got to go out there and do the work. They got to go out there and do it. And that's going to be a really, really hard thing to do. But it's possible. So let's see what they are able to do here over the next couple of weeks. Coming up on the other side, it wasn't going to last too long. They got a one-segment reprieve. We have to talk about the Phoenix Suns. We'll do that next here on the lunch break, KDUS, AM 1060. You know what? We're going to do something that has never been done in the history of this program. Is that okay with you, Producer Corey, here on our Friday? Well, can we bend the rules a little bit? Okay. So I'm going to do something that has never been done. The first segment of the show is always called the Daily Special, right? It's our top story. I'm doing it.
Time for our top story of the day.
Two.
It's the Daily Special.
Yeah, that's right. They're not getting away with this. They're also the top story. And that's the Phoenix Suns. Are you kidding me with that basketball game last night? You knew it, too. You knew it. You looked at the score, and you knew exactly how the show was going to go today. You knew exactly the tone and tenor that this show was going to take today after I spent the first segment of the show yesterday saying, hey, maybe we beat Indiana. Maybe we beat Detroit. This is your chance. You're playing a lesser opponent. How about we beat these teams at home to set up a nice stretch? And again, this team can barely go 3 games without somebody having an injury. They barely can go 5 games without us right back into the pit. It doesn't take very long. And I said on the show yesterday, do not ruin my Football Friday. Don't do it. And that's exactly what they've done. They have ruined my Football Friday. Why? Because not only did they lose to the Indiana Pacers last night, and that in and of itself is a conversation of how that occurs. Devin Booker's hurt. He has a groin injury. So now we've completed the big 3 bingo. Kevin Durant's been hurt and missed time. Bradley Beal has been hurt and missed time. Nice to see him back in the lineup last night. And now it is Devin Booker's turn with a groin injury, and you know they're going to take precautions with that. And so I don't know when we're going to see Devin Booker again. And so now we can officially say in 2024, we have completed the bingo card. Normally in bingo, it's 5. It's only 3 for the Phoenix Suns because it's the big 3, and I am bingo. We hit injury bingo last night. And so I'm done. This is why we made the declaration that we made on Monday. This is why. There is nothing to trust about this team. And I don't want to get on these guys for getting hurt. It happens. It's sports. But at some point, you put all this together and you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I am not getting fooled again. I'm not doing it. This team has not one singular time this season shown us a reason to think they are any different from the team that they were a year ago. Let's go back down memory lane. I wish I had some music for us to go down memory lane with. Last year, we put this big 3 together here in Phoenix. One of the best players in the game, Kevin Durant. One of the best young stars in the game in Devin Booker. And a great third option who would probably be a number 2 and in some markets would be a number 1 in Bradley Beal. We're going to put these 3 guys together, and we are going to try to win a championship. That's what we're going to do. And all throughout the year, it was all just give these guys time to gel. Just wait till you see when they're all on the court together. And just over and over and over again, we didn't see it. We didn't get to see all three of these guys on the floor together. It didn't happen. And they were finally able to kind of hit some rhythm at the end of the season. But by the time they got to the postseason, they just didn't have enough time to gel. Okay, we're going to reset. We're going to double down. We're going to add the pieces, and we're going to give this another shot. And we are, 27 games into this season? And here we are again. The same problems, the same nonsense. A team that can't stay healthy. A team that everybody wants to convince me, just wait till I see the best version of them. And I have seen the best version of them less than 15 times this season? Less than half of the season? What am I supposed to do with that? Why am I supposed to think for a brief second that anything's changed about this team? Why am I, for any moment, supposed to think that, oh, no, don't worry, Chris. It's the next time is going to be the time. Don't worry. When Devin Booker comes back from this injury, it's going to be okay. That's when they're going to be healthy. Why? Because when Kevin Durant came back from an injury, it was Bradley Beal's turn. Bradley Beal comes back, now it's Devin Booker's turn. So when Book comes back, what's to say that it's not going to be one of the other 2 guys again? At some point, if you continue to believe in this team, and when I say believe in this team, I mean believe in the championship aspirations. Are they going to be able to probably sneak in to the Western Conference playoffs as a play-in team? Or maybe they'll be a team that's able to sneak into one of the last seeds that doesn't have to play in that play-in tournament? It's possible. They have enough raw talent that if at least 2 of the 3 guys are on the floor, you would expect them to win enough basketball games. But that's not success for this team. Success for this team is playing in the Western Conference Finals, playing for a championship. So you know what we did on Monday? We said, not anymore. Taking it off the table. I don't care that you beat Utah. I don't care that you beat Portland. We are officially taking it off the table. And as this week has progressed, we're now here on a Friday, a couple days removed from that declaration, and it has aged beautifully. Doing great. The first declaration that we've made here on the show, looking like a good declaration of this team's going to be a first-round exit. Because if you put in the tape, I don't think you can tell the difference between this team and last year's team. I know they have a different coach, and I know they have a bunch of different role players, but we are talking about the same thing. Right? You can play back shows. You can play back podcasts from this market of reaction after games last season. It's the same thing. And so this is my call to all of you today. Stop buying in. Stop believing in this. At some point, you have to admit that it is a failure. And I'm more mad at another stretch of games that we're going to have to go through, picking and choosing when Devin Booker is going to come back, and less mad about losing to Indiana, but that's bad too. You can't lose to that team at home. I know Booker left the game in the third quarter and didn't play the remainder of the game. Kevin Durant was still out there. Bradley Beal was still out there. This team is good enough and talented enough where two of the big three are on the floor. They should win basketball games, especially against teams that are below 500. Defensively, this team isn't very good right now, and it feels like the woe is me approach. It feels like they have come to a place where they just expect bad things to happen to them. They expect to show up, and either they're just going to win the basketball game or they expect it to be an absolute disaster, and they expect the bad things to happen. And can you blame them with all of the bad things that have happened so far just this season? And so I'm done. Maybe you're still not done. Maybe your New Year's resolution is going to be to give this team a chance. Not for me. That is not going to be the New Year's resolution that I give to the Phoenix Suns. It is one of my favorite things to do in sports radio. We will do it when we are back. We are off next week. We will be back for, I think that's 2 shows before New Year's. So one of my favorite things to do, and so you can bookmark it now, on one of those days, the Monday or Tuesday, we will give out New Year's resolutions for all of the teams here in town. We'll do one for the Suns. We'll do one for the Diamondbacks. We'll do one for the Cardinals. We'll do one for ASU and U of A. We will do New Year's resolutions for all of the teams. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Promise you right now, my New Year's resolution for the Phoenix Suns is not all of a sudden going to, give them a chance. I've given them a chance. I've given them a chance now for over 100 games. All of last season and now 20-some-odd games of this season. They have been given enough of a sample size. They were also given a playoff series as well. So we're closing in on almost 140 games that we have seen of this group. That's a large enough sample size to start talking about getting off the ride. I got off the ride on Monday. I stopped trying to debate what this was going to look like. And last night, they came out in the third quarter, and it just all fell apart. It just all crumbled. And so if it's going to crumble against Indiana, how do you expect me to believe it's not going to crumble in a playoff series against Memphis or against Minnesota or against Oklahoma City or against Houston? What is there for me to hang my hat on to say, no, everybody, this is why it's different? Is it this dream? Is it this idea of the big three being able to do enough? Because part of this, too, is they might be able to stumble and bumble their way into a playoff spot, but if they draw a bad first-round matchup, even with the big three, they're going to be challenged in the playoffs. They're going to be challenged if they draw Oklahoma City. They're going to be challenged if they draw Memphis, Dallas, Golden State. They're going to be challenged in the Western Conference playoffs against any of these teams that they play because they're still, I'd have to run the math. But I wonder if we are getting up to a point where by the time we get to the end of this season, which would then be 2 full seasons of this big three, if they would have been able to have played a full season together, a full 82 games. I don't know if that math's even possible at this point. I'd have to run the math. This is a disaster. And I asked yesterday to not have to have this conversation today. I feel like I'm scolding a child right now. Yesterday, I said I didn't want to do this. I don't want to have this conversation about this team again. And I was just talking about them losing. And now we are spending our day, once again, talking about another injury with the Phoenix Suns. This time, it's the last member of the Big Three who had, up until this point, not gotten hurt. Just a disaster in downtown Phoenix right now. Disaster. Made the decision to run it back, and it is aging terribly in real time. We talked about this being a season of redemption. We used the wrong word. It's a season of repeat. Because this is the same stuff that we were doing last year. The same circumstances, the same injuries forcing them to be without the Big Three. It's the same thing. And so get off the ride while we still have our sanity. Coming up on the other side, Week 16 in the NFL, we will do the NFL look ahead. We'll do it next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Make sure you download the KDUS AM 1060 app. You can take us with you on the go. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation. I apologize. A little hot to start the show today. It's a Friday. I've had to spend the first 2 segments of the show not talking about football on what is supposed to be a football Friday. I had to yell about the Phoenix Suns. I had to yell at the Diamondbacks for not signing Christian Walker. It has been a weird start to the show. Because I will tell you, I'll let everybody in on a little behind the scenes. The way the show was scheduled to start was I was going to yell about the Suns. I was going to get it out of my system, right? And then I'm going to read to you what the second segment was supposed to be, okay? I was supposed to talk about how potentially the best thing about Christian Walker's free agency for the Diamondbacks also is the worst thing about his free agency for the Diamondbacks. That's where we were going to go today. We were going to talk about the qualifying offer being attached to him and how it's great for the Diamondbacks because they'll get a top draft pick back, but it's also the worst thing because that's the thing that's holding up his market. And so that's what we were going to do. That's how the show was going to go. And then we were going to lead right into the NFL look ahead, and it was going to be fine. I was going to get the yelling out of the way, and then we were just going to have a nice, easy show. That didn't happen. Things had to change. Christian Walker signed with the Astros. We got upended a little bit. But that's what we were supposed to do. I was going to get the yelling out of my system to start the show, and instead, I basically just yelled for 35 minutes. So let's, you know what? Need to calm down. Need to relax. And there's nothing that calms me down or relaxes me more than this. See, now I'm calm. I'm relaxed. I get to talk about football. What's there to yell about when it comes to football? So now that this music is playing, we have an opportunity to do the NFL look ahead. We go around the NFL, and I give you my immediate thoughts on all of these games. And we start Saturday. That's right. Saturday football is back. Tomorrow, the Texans will take on the Chiefs, the 13-1 Chiefs, who are 7-0 at home, 3.5-point favorites against the 9-5 Texans. Here's your takeaway. How does Mahomes look? He practiced all week, was a full participant. They are letting him start this game. Letting him is probably too strong of a word. They are okay with him starting this game. So how does he look? Because there's been a lot of debate, a lot of conversation of should they sit him down? Should they rest him? They have a 2-game cushion right now for the 1 seed in the AFC. So what are they going to do? Well, it looks like they are going to allow him to play in this football game. And for the Texans, can you show me something? I know you're 9-5. I know you're leading your division. I know you're going to make the playoffs, and I don't even think you need to win, but can you show me you can hang with these teams? Can you show me that you belong? Because right now I don't think you do. You're a 9-win team that I don't really believe in. You and the Commanders, the 9-win club of teams that I know are going to break my heart. So can you show me something, please? The other game tomorrow, the Steelers, the 10-4 Steelers traveling on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers, we'll see how they bounce back, right? It had been pretty much smooth sailing for them since turning things over to Russell Wilson. It was a good move. The results were there. They are somewhat the surprise of the NFL right now, being in double-digit wins with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. And they hit a bit of a wall. They played a really good Eagles team, and that really good Eagles team, I think, dropped them down a little bit. Humbled them a little bit. And so Mike Tomlin cautions this being, hey, we're not going to overreact. This is just one loss. We're not going to make a bigger deal out of this than we need to. Well, you can say that, and I think you believe it. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing for it to be true, especially when you have the Baltimore Ravens as the next team up on your schedule. And the Ravens are the team that I just can't quit. Despite them giving me a number of examples, the same way the Phoenix Suns have given me a number of examples to not believe in them, I'm still there with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, so this is the game, please. Lamar, please, at home, 6.5-point favorites against the Steelers. TJ Watt's status is up in the air. Please, 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 please. I'm gripping the microphone stand. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the energy level that I'm putting into this. Lamar, please, show me something. Win this football game. Take back the division. Put yourself in control. Show me that you are right there with the Chiefs and you're right there with the Bills. Please do this. We move to Sunday. Yes. Clear the schedule, everybody, because the Giants are taking on the Falcons. The Falcons, 8.5-point favorites at home. Think about this for a second. The Falcons are 8.5-point favorites at home with a rookie quarterback making his debut. Michael Penix Jr. going to get the start for the Falcons. That tells you everything you need to know about how Vegas feels about the Giants. Team's just lifeless. Team just is, I don't know what they are. Drew Lock's apparently starting for them. It doesn't matter. Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito, me, producer Corey. It doesn't matter who's under center for the New York Giants. It is ugly right now for them. I will say they have a better chance now because both of their wins this season have come on the road. They don't do anything at home, so this is probably a better chance for them to win a football game. But all eyes are going to be on Michael Penix Jr. The Falcons have made this change to try to maybe save their season, to try to get back in a playoff race. And so they are handing the keys to their franchise to their first-round pick from a year ago. And see what Michael Penix Jr. is up for the challenge. The Lions will travel to Soldier Field to take on the Bears. The 12-2 Lions trying to bounce back from that game against the Bills. I'll be intrigued to see what their response looks like. They have been dealing with a ton of injuries. And at some point, that's just going to take its emotional toll on you as a team, just constantly losing guys. They're a close group. You can see it. You can feel it, right? With the way the Dan Campbell post-game speeches in the locker room go. This is a close group. Not to say there aren't other close groups across the National Football League, but you can just feel it when you see the Lions and you see their content. And so at some point, I think all of these injuries really are going to pile up, and it just takes an emotional toll. What does that emotional toll look like? Well, they're 7-point favorites on the road against the Bears, and so we'll see if it has an impact. The Browns will take on the Bengals in Cincinnati. The Bengals 9-point favorites at home. The message for this game is clear. The Bengals still mathematically alive, so you're telling me there's a chance. Yeah, I'm telling you there's a chance. It requires you winning out and getting a lot of help. They beat Tennessee last week. Can they do it again against the Browns? I know the Browns are kind of the fun little story. It's fun to watch Jameis Winston play. He's not playing anymore. They've turned things over to DTR. So the Bengals continue to take care of business against these teams. I think you've run out of time. I think you've run out of runway. I think it's too little too late. But as long as you're still mathematically alive, can you show me something? It's kind of the theme of the look ahead this week. Show me something. The Bengals can show me something. The Titans, Colts, you don't need to show me anything about this game. I don't need to see anything from anybody. We don't have Will Levis anymore. It's Mason Rudolph. Indy's a 3.5-point favorite at home. You don't need to show me anything from this football game. I'm good. The Rams, they will be taking on the Jets. They will travel to East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Rams 3-point favorites on the road. The Rams trying to hold off the Seahawks, trying to hold off the Cardinals, trying to hold on to the NFC West. We have told you that they are one of the teams that could be considered a team you don't want to draw in the postseason, but they need to finish the job in order to do so. Matt Stafford throwing it back, old school. It's kind of smoke and mirrors, but Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, they've got the gang there all together in an effort to try to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're playing a really bad Jets team who's coming off a win the week prior. We'll see how they do at home. The Eagles and the Commanders. The Eagles coming off that big win against the Steelers. The Commanders surviving against the Saints. The last time these two teams played, it didn't go well for the Commanders. The Eagles 3.5-point favorites on the road. And this is a show-me spot for the Commanders, right? Because I am on record. I said this yesterday when we did the power rankings. The Commanders are a team of, I can see the future with them, and I can see how they're going to let their fan base down. I can see how they're going to let us all down. Great story, great year, great rookie campaign from Jaden Daniels. Dan Quinn, first year there, has really turned things around, has set a great culture. Year one of the new ownership, things are going in the right direction. The trend line for the Washington Commanders is upward. That's a good thing. But you can kind of see it in the way they're winning games and in the way that they're losing games, that they're not there yet. They're going to make the playoffs in a weak NFC East because of the way the rest of the NFC playoff picture is playing out, and with the Cowboys and Giants being as bad as they are. But I just don't think they're on that level yet. You beat the Eagles. You now give me something that I can at least pause about. It goes a long way. So the Commanders, 3.5-point dogs at home against the Eagles. The Cardinals and the Panthers we'll get to here in just a little bit. The Vikings traveling on the road to take on the Seahawks. Minnesota 3-point favorites. The Seahawks need this one. They have to keep pace with the Rams, and they need to make sure they keep that door shut for the Arizona Cardinals. The Seahawks lose 2 of their final 3 games. That is the door swinging wide open for the Arizona Cardinals to come nice, fashionably late to the party. So that's what's on the line for the Seahawks. What's on the line for the Vikings? Well, have you noticed the Eagles are 12-2? Have you noticed the Lions are 12-2? That's right, the 1 seed is in play for the Minnesota Vikings. So Sam Darnold, can he continue to play well? Can he continue to win football games? And can somehow the Minnesota Vikings go from being that first wildcard team to somehow winning the division and being the 1 seed? We shall see. The Patriots against the Bills. Here's the motto, the Bills. Can they apply maximum pressure to the Chiefs? That is what their goal is. If these two teams end the season tied, the Bills will get the 1 seed. So in order for them to do that, the Bills have to make up 2 games, apply maximum pressure while the Chiefs are dealing with a harder schedule. You drew the Patriots this week. They have the Texans. Apply maximum pressure. If they lose earlier in the day, you take care of business against the Patriots. Apply maximum pressure. That's the name of the game for the Bills. Ah, yes. I know the game is going to air here on the station, so if you're a Raiders fan, I'm happy for you. Producer Corey, I feel bad for you. Do you know what matchup you've drawn this weekend? You know you got the Raiders, and I know you're reeling from Monday. So, in an effort to help you out here, how about I give you Jaguars Raiders? How about that? There you go, buddy. Jags Raiders, a 5-23. Yep, there you go. Have fun with that. The Raiders 1.5-point favorites in the game. That is I think it's a tank off, really. I don't think either team wants to win the game, so we'll see who ultimately wins the game. 49ers, Dolphins? Sure. I don't know. The Dolphins are 1-point favorites at home. These teams don't have E's next to their name, but they're basically as good as eliminated. I think whoever loses this game will definitely be eliminated. So that is what that game provides. Potentially no Jalen Waddle in that game. The 49ers, a whole host of injuries to their running backs. These two teams not at full strength. It is Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel. That's really what you have there. The Bucs against the Cowboys on Sunday night. The Bucs 4-point favorites on the road. It's an important one for the Bucs because they have a 1-game lead over the Atlanta Falcons, and they need to hold them off because if they're tied, Atlanta has the tiebreaker. So you can't open the door. You have to slam the door shut. I know the Cowboys have been playing better as of late, but Baker and the Bucs seem to have answered the bell every single time. There's no reason to think that they won't be able to do it again on Sunday night. But that's a good one because while you look at the game on paper and you say, oh, the Bucs should be able to handle that one, the Cowboys have been spunky as of late. They've had a little fire. They've been able to win some football games. It hasn't looked pretty. It hasn't been beating the best of the best. And so we'll see how they answer the call here against the Bucs. But this one might be a part of the Schubert 6 in hour number 2. That's all I'll say. That is all I will say. And then on Monday, the Saints will take on the Packers. The Packers 14-point favorites on Monday against the Saints at home. I don't think that's going to be a part of the Schubert 6. We're kind of finalizing things here behind the scenes, but I don't think it's going to be. But we will get to that in hour number 2 of the program. So that is your Week 16 NFL look ahead. Coming up on the other side, we will wrap up hour number 1 of the program with this. We know that they're going to be missing some key players. Unfortunately, that can't be an excuse. We'll discuss next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Injuries, the name of the game. Welcome back into the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060, wrapping up hour number 1 of the program. We've got you till 1 o'clock here today. Chris Schubert with you. Appreciate you joining us. The Arizona Cardinals play a very important contest this Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. They will be doing so without, do you have a notepad ready? Paris Johnson Jr., Trey Benson, Mac Wilson, Jesse Luketa. All will not play. They are all out due to injury, according to head coach Jonathan Gannon. Johnson reportedly suffering a strained MCL and could miss multiple weeks. Benson has been the number 2 for the Cardinals in the backfield. They also will be without Emari DeMercado, who was on the IR. So it's DJ Dallas next up, maybe Tony Jones or Michael Carter. And so at a key moment of the season, let's face it, this is crunch time. This is meaningful December football. When the season started, the goal was simple: play meaningful December football. And we can discuss the twists and turns, the ups and downs that got us to this point, but the Arizona Cardinals are playing meaningful December football. There are some of you out there that probably don't buy into their chance of making the playoffs. It's a 12.5% chance, so I understand that. And then there are some that are still holding out hope that there's enough pathways for them to get in as long as they take care of business, and I can appreciate that approach. I'm not going to be too critical. They're playing meaningful December football. We can get upset about the 3-game losing streak to start after the bye week. That completely unraveled what was supposed to be a great story that would have allowed them to play even more meaningful December football, where they might have had this in the bag already. But they are playing meaningful December football. They are going to step foot on the field on Sunday with everything on the line. That's what you want as a football fan. That's what you want your football team to do. You want your football team to be playing games in December where it matters. The outcomes are do or die. You are scoreboard watching. That's what you live for. You also live for your team to just, go 13-0 like 13-1 like the Chiefs did and just lock up the division and not have to worry about anything. But playing meaningful December football is a nice alternative. And that's what the Cardinals are doing. And so to reach this point, and now to be without your starting left tackle, your complementary piece at running back, one of your key starting linebackers, and one of the other guys in Jesse Luketa, who's a rotational part of that group, this is a huge blow. This is a massive deal. Now, here is the tough part of that. It doesn't matter. This doesn't get to be an excuse. We can't come in here on Monday talking about a Cardinals loss and say, oh, but they were without Paris Johnson Jr., they were without Trey Benson, they didn't have Mac Wilson and Jesse Luketa, the injuries. This is what you get for playing the way you did after the bye. You've left yourself no margin for error. So go find a way to take care of business. Because if you are a playoff team, if you are a team that should be playing meaningful December football, if that game next Saturday against the Rams is supposed to mean what we all would like it to mean, then you find a way on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. You've got your starting quarterback. You've got your starting running back. You've got your number 1 wide receiver. You've got your top pass catching option in Trey McBride. You've got most of your offensive linemen. The guy you're putting in there at left tackle showed that he could hang at right tackle this year. You got to go find a way. Here's your moment, Kyler Murray. Here's your chance. All of these injuries, without your starting left tackle, without a starting linebacker, your complementary piece at running back, a depth linebacker, those are the 4 guys that are out. Find a way. Producer Corey, this feels like exactly what I just did yesterday with the Phoenix Suns. I'm not doing it on Monday. I'm not playing the sounder and talking about, they were just had a bunch of injuries. Just came back to bite them. Late in the season, had a bunch of injuries. Yeah. No, that's not an excuse. I am not going to accept that as a reason why they lose this football game. They still have talent. They are still the more talented team. They have the coaching matchup in their favor. They have to go find a way. When you play as poorly as this team did the 3 weeks after the bye week, the 3-game losing streak that put them into this position, you remove the margin of error. You remove the excuse making. Because if you lose this Sunday and you want to point to the injuries as a reason why the season crumbled, I will respond, what happened in the 2 games in Seattle? What happened in the fourth quarter against Minnesota? Those things have nothing to do with injury. Those 3 losses, where if 1 or 2 of those are different, changes the entire complexion of the second half. Injuries weren't a factor there. You had a lead in the fourth quarter against Minnesota. You came out flat and made too many early mistakes in that second Seattle game. You played your worst brand of football all year in that first game against Seattle and still almost had a chance to win. That has nothing to do with injuries. That has nothing to do with what happens on Sunday. And so there's no built-in excuse. I don't care that Paris Johnson Jr. Let me take that back. I care that these guys are hurt. I want them to be out there playing. But them not playing is now not a built-in excuse if they lose and fall to 7-8 and dash their playoff dreams. I'm sorry, it's not going to be accepted. So the motto, the message is simple. Find a way. You played yourself into this mess where these injuries could create a small margin of error. But let's face it, you have the perfect emergency option at left tackle in Kelvin Beachum, who did a great job filling in for Jonah Williams earlier this year at right tackle. The rest of your offensive line has been one nice, cohesive unit all year. You still have James Conner. You still have Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. You have your whole offensive output ready to go. Go score some points. You're going to be without Mack Wilson? You're worried about the interior of your front seven? Worried about your defense overall? Worried about getting attacked over the middle of the field? How about this, Kyler Murray? How about this, Cardinals offense? Go put up 30. Go put up 35. Bail your defense out for once. Go take care of a bad Carolina team. I know they've been good as of late. They've played competitive football. Guess what? Still lost to the Chiefs. Still lost in overtime to the Bucs. Still lost to the Eagles. Lost to the Cowboys. Still lost all those games. They were competitive. They showed more fight than we saw earlier in the year. They looked like a better football team. Bryce Young was playing better football. All of that can be true. Still lost all 4 of those games. Still did not come away with a victory. And so, yeah, we can talk about Carolina's going to be a tough test. And we can talk about how this isn't your week 1 Carolina Panthers. This is a better version of them. I'll give it all to you. They're still not stacking up wins. They didn't beat the Cowboys last week. They didn't beat the Eagles the week before. They took the Bucs to overtime, still lost. Took the Chiefs to the brink, still lost. So you can do the same thing. You can still beat this team on Sunday. You can still find a way. So do it. There is no built-in excuse. Nobody is going to feel bad on Monday for this team and say, oh, injuries just derailed their season. It's not going to be the case. It's certainly not going to be the case here. I'll tell you that much. We're not going to give them that out. You're a better team than Carolina. You're a better team than Carolina, even with these injuries. You have reinforcements that can step up. You have James Conner, who can put this team on his back like we've seen him do. This is your moment, Kyler Murray. Step up. Have a big game. Have that marquee December moment. And then set yourself up for a huge showdown for ultimate redemption against the Rams on prime time. There you go. That's what you're fighting for, Kyler Murray. You are fighting for the redemption that we thought the Suns were going to be able to have this year, that they're not. Here is your moment. Here is your chance. So do it. Injuries, whatever the case may be, everybody's got injuries this time of year. Find a way. The Chiefs are dealing with Patrick Mahomes and a high ankle sprain. Find a way. And have us come in here talking on Monday about an 8-7 football team that is setting up for a huge clash. Oh, we're not even going to be here on Monday. I don't even get to yell. I just realized that, producer Corey, I don't even get to yell. I'll yell on social media. How about that? Make sure you follow us on all the socials. I don't even get to yell on Monday. That's disappointing. I'll still probably yell, but it'll just be in more bite-sized chunks, right? Because on social media, the clips can only be like 90 seconds. So I can kind of, it can be self-contained for a little bit. So you know what? Make it so that my social media posts on Monday for the show are of the positive nature. How about that? Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 on this Football Friday. We got picks to make. Sun Devil football. We got a lot to do. Hour number 2 next. Lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back in hour number 2 on this Football Friday edition of the Lunch Break, KDUS AM 1060. We've got you for one more hour until 1 o'clock. And things over to the Gottlieb, you got Rich Eisen, and the Rooster Sports Zoo closing out your weekend, or your week today, heading into the weekend. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the show. And tonight, we'll start the college football playoff. We'll get into that a little bit, specifically with that game a little bit later on in the show, in the leftovers. But tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, by the time we get to tomorrow night, the Sun Devils will know who their opponent will be for the Peach Bowl, because Clemson will take on Texas tomorrow. And I was driving in today to the building. And by the way, producer Corey, you can you can feel it. Holidays around here. Not as many people in the building today as there were earlier in the week. I got here this morning at 8:30, and I thought I missed a memo of some kind. I was like, is the building getting cleaned or something? Because there were like 4 cars in the parking lot. Now, as the day has progressed, there are more people that have been here, but When I got here this morning, I legitimately thought that there was a memo or an email that I had missed. Yeah, no, it had that kind of feel this morning that next week when we're in here, and we'll still be doing some social media content. So KDUS 1060 on all the social platforms, so you can see all the stuff that we do there. I'll probably have a take of the day, and we'll still do the Schubert 6. We'll do all that stuff next week. Just be on the lookout on the social channels for that, and also on YouTube as well. I was prepared for next week to have that feel to it. The Friday before, it feels like, yeah, people are getting a head start here a little bit. But I will say, driving in this morning, I don't want to say forgot, but it kind of snuck up on me that, oh yeah, ASU's got a college football playoff game here in a little bit. Like, oh yeah, the first round of the college football playoff starts tonight. Like, this is the first year of the 12 team. And so these games are starting a little earlier because the first round, obviously more teams. We don't just have 4 teams, so 2 semifinals and then a championship game, 3 games in total. We've got more games for these teams to potentially play. And so it's starting a little earlier. And so it kind of snuck up on me that tonight Notre Dame will take on Indiana. And I have some thoughts on that game in particular that I'll save for the leftovers. But that game's going to start tonight, and then tomorrow we have Clemson, Texas. So tomorrow night, we will know who the Sun Devils will play, whether it will be Clemson in the Peach Bowl or it will be Texas in the Peach Bowl. Now, I would think most people at this stage are assuming it's going to be a Texas ASU matchup, which you probably get a little nervous. You probably get a little anxious of the idea of playing a Texas team that, yeah, is the 5 seed, but one of the best teams in college football all year, a team that could have very easily won the SEC. Yeah, I can understand you being nervous by that. Texas is a 10.5-point favorite over Clemson. So Vegas certainly thinks that it's going to be Texas against ASU. And so you find yourself playing this game of who do you root for? Do you root for Clemson because they're obviously the worst team? They're the 12 seed. They barely got in. They snuck in by winning the ACC over SMU. Or so do you root for them because you think they would be the better matchup? Or what do you do? And here has always been my rule of thumb when it comes to this. Be careful what you wish for, right? Because it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I'd love to play Clemson because I don't want to play Texas. I don't want to play Quinn Ewers. I don't want to go up against that Texas defense. I don't want to go up against that team. So, yeah, give me Clemson. They're the 12 seed. They're the last team in for a reason. Give me that team. Okay, but played well against SMU, and then if they would have beaten Texas, team that might be getting hot at the right time. So be careful what you wish for. You can always look at a team and say that they might be the better matchup for you. You can always look at a team and say, I would rather face them. You just don't know how things are going to play out. So I have always come to the place of just let things happen. If you play Texas, you play Texas. If you play Clemson, you play Clemson. To do these mental gymnastics of trying to always find the favorable matchup the rest of the way, look at the bracket. Look at the way the bracket would play out. If they win the Peach Bowl, there's a chance they're playing Oregon. There's a chance they could be playing Ohio State or Tennessee. All 3 of those teams would be good. Look at the other side of the bracket. Georgia's a good team. Indiana's been a good team all year. There are good football teams. You are not going to be able to constantly maneuver your way and avoid the tough matchups and just have a nice, easy path to potentially playing in more than one college football playoff game. You can't do it. So you sit back tomorrow. You enjoy the football game. You enjoy for at least 1 week not having that stress, not having to worry about the Sun Devils, win or go home, which is what it's been since the Kansas State game for this team, basically. And you just get to enjoy some nice college football. You get to enjoy tonight, Indiana, Notre Dame. And then tomorrow you get to enjoy SMU, Penn State to start the day, then Clemson, Texas, and then Tennessee, Ohio State to end the day. Now, Producer Corey, you and I are both going to be here tomorrow. We both will be in the building tomorrow. I will have Clemson, Texas on the TV here because I will be down the hall working the NAU game. The TV will be on, and I think the Clemson, Texas game will be on. And you'll be here later in the day for ASU women's basketball. You will probably be able to enjoy some nice Tennessee, Ohio State, or some of the NFL action if you'd like. It might be a multi-screen experience on a Saturday, which is rare. but it might be. And so I think my approach here is just enjoy the game. Doesn't really matter who wins. You're going to play good teams regardless. If you play Texas, you play Texas. If you play Clemson, you play Clemson. Don't get into this, who do I root for? Just enjoy the football for what it is. It should be good football. It should be exciting, fun football. Enjoy it. And then once an opponent is declared, then we can dive into how do they match up against Texas? How do they match up against Clemson? Are there weaknesses that ASU is uniquely qualified to exploit from these teams? What things do ASU have to look for when playing Texas or playing Clemson? Once we know who the matchup is, then we can jump through the hoops of trying to preview this matchup and seeing if ASU stands a chance. I'm not naive. If they play Texas, it's going to be an uphill battle. If they play Clemson, you certainly would favor their odds a little bit more. But hasn't this team proven something to you already this year? That it doesn't matter who they play, that it doesn't matter what narrative there is about them, that they're going to bring the effort. Whether it'll be enough, whether it will lead to a victory is one thing, but this team's going to be prepared for whoever they play. They're going to be ready to play whoever they play. They are going to be mentally focused for whoever they play. They are going to be ready for that game. I think Kenny Dillingham and his staff have proven that they don't allow the pressure to impact the way they prep. They don't allow the pressure to impact the way things are handled. Practice-wise, preparation-wise. It is just next week, this is who we're facing, this is how we're preparing, let's get to work. And this team has responded every single time. And so this program has earned the benefit of the doubt. They've earned the benefit of the doubt that no matter who they play, doesn't matter. They are going to be ready to go. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this works. I'm excited to see if these games being at the venue of the lower-rated schools, so Texas hosting a playoff game, Ohio State hosting a playoff game, Penn State, Notre Dame. I'm excited to see what these atmospheres look like if I assume they're going to give off championship-level feels, but this is the first year that we're doing this. It's the first year that we're having this. I do think there are going to be some tweaks that get made after this season, but I'm really excited to see because after this, we then get into the bowl games where the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl. So they're at the locations of where these bowls are. These first-round matchups being home field for the better-rated team is cool. And I'm very excited to see what these atmospheres look like, the quality of the game. And look, at the end of the day, it's making college football a lot of money. This is a business, and this is going to be, I think it's going to do huge for them. I think these numbers are going to be insane. I think that Clemson-Texas game tomorrow afternoon is going to do well. I think Indiana-Notre Dame tonight is going to generate a lot of buzz. You don't really have a whole lot going on in basketball. There's no huge marquee matchups that you want to go out of your way to watch. It's a Friday, so there's no football. And so college football has the landscape to themselves tonight, and it's at Notre Dame, a marquee university, a institution in college football, in the college football playoff against a upstart, exciting Indiana team that has raised some eyebrows this season. So I'm excited to sit down tonight at 6 o'clock and have Indiana and Notre Dame, whether they're on the big screen or they get put on the tablet. I'm pretty excited for the college football playoff. And then we get to see how it all plays out, and then whatever adjustments get made from here. But 4 matchups this weekend. Indiana, Notre Dame tonight, SMU, Penn State tomorrow, then Clemson, Texas, and Tennessee, Ohio State. And then after that, we will be down to the final 8, and we will be into the quarterfinals, and the Sun Devils will know their opponent. So we'll see if they get together for a little watch party. Earlier this week, they did a bunch of activation type stuff. The program did, the university did, and I heard that there was a lot of people that have been showing up to these events, that have been showing up to hear Coach Dillingham and to meet players, and there's been a lot of buzz about this program right now, and rightly so. And you just hope that this is the start of that upward trajectory that a lot of people think this program is able to have. And we can ride the wave, we can enjoy it, but you just hope that this is the beginning. You hope that this is the start of something really, really cool, because it has been so fun, especially on this show, following this throughout the entire journey. We started this show, it was around the time the Cincinnati game was on the calendar, and they were without Sam Levitt, and we talked about that, and I didn't think at all that we were going to be having this conversation talking about a college football playoff team. So here we are. It's a lot of fun, And I am hopeful that the journey doesn't just end in the Peach Bowl, no matter who they play on New Year's Day. Coming up on the other side, I've taken a nice deep breath. I've relaxed. So I think it's time to jump back into this. Because when are we actually going to admit the things that are wrong here and make the decision to pull the plug? That is next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back into the lunch break. Putting the finishing touches on the Schubert 6. I think we're locked in now. I think we have our 6 picks ready to go. That's coming up in about 15 minutes or so. But I want to dive back into the story that we got into in hour number 1 of the show, and that is the Suns and what happened last night to them. Not only losing to Indiana, but losing Devin Booker to a groin injury, and just the dread that I think we all feel when it comes to this team, the dread that we feel about where this team is going. And it was just a couple days ago, Producer Corey, that we were talking about the value menu at the Phoenix Suns. And now here we sit talking about a 14-12 basketball team that lost by 9 to the Indiana Pacers last night, and more importantly, lost Devin Booker, who is now hurt with a groin injury. And I got angry in hour number 1. I don't think I'll get angry again. I think I've calmed down a little bit. But at what point is enough enough? At what point is enough enough? At what point are we going to admit that this thing isn't working? At what point are we going to admit that this group, as currently constructed, is never going to be healthy enough to reach the heights that they want to reach? It's 2 years now. Last year it happened. And now it's already happened to every single member of the Big Three this year. It's Kevin Durant twice, Bradley Beal twice, and now with the groin tightness for Devin Booker, we'll see what that looks like. Left the game on Thursday, didn't return. And groin injuries, hamstrings, those injuries, you have to basically sit on them. You have to rest them. You have to rehab them. And you have to be really careful that you don't turn them into longer-term, month-long, multi-month injuries. And so at what point are we going to sit down and have an honest conversation that this isn't working? And what I mean by an honest conversation about this isn't working, when are we going to realistically discuss trading Kevin Durant or trading Devin Booker or seeing if Bradley Beal will waive his no-trade clause to just move on from the money and hit the reset button? When are we going to have that honest conversation? Because we can continue to do this song and dance. We can continue to expect that these guys are going to come back and they're going to show us a little something, and we're going to believe again, and we're going to dream of what it could look like in the postseason, and we're going to have those conversations. We can do that. But we know most of the time how that ends. It ends with another member of the Big Three getting hurt and us starting that cycle all over again. That's what happens. And so we are 26 games into this season. We played all of last year. So we are up close to 115, 120 games that we have seen where these members of the Big Three could have been available. We saw a first-round exit a year ago. Kevin Durant's not getting any younger. So at what point, I know Matt HP has made it very clear that they want to sign Kevin Durant to a contract extension. They want him to be here in Phoenix. At what point are we going to get real? At what point are we going to have an honest conversation that this isn't working and the only way out is to get value now for Kevin Durant, to get value now for Devin Booker? When are we going to have that conversation? Because I'm done having the other conversation. I'm done trying to convince myself that things can get better. I notoriously have been against what this team has tried to do the last couple of years. Ever since they blew a 2-0 lead in the NBA Finals, I thought that was it. That was your chance. You missed. It's all probably going to go downhill from here. And kind of has. Although this time, a different coat of paint. New coach, a couple new stars for this iteration, 2 new coaches in this iteration. Haven't gotten past the first round. And if you don't open up the possibility to have the honest conversation about the long-term future and is Matt Ishbia going to continue to run one of the highest payrolls? He is running one of the highest payrolls in the NBA because he wants to win. Does anybody think that this team can still win right now? Does anybody think that this team still is a championship caliber team? And if you tell me that, oh yeah, they're championship caliber when they're healthy, yeah, really important word there, when. When they're healthy. We've played Big Three injury bingo. It's not even Christmas. It's not even Christmas, and we've played Big Three bingo. You think it's just going to all of a sudden stop when we get to February and March? You don't think this is a problem that we're going to see in January, in February, in March, in April, all the way through the end of the regular season? You think this is just an isolated thing here to start the year? Oh, once they get through this, they'll be fine. No. This has been a problem since this Big Three was put together. Gave up 120 points to the Pacers last night. Lost Devin Booker. You have a tough schedule to end the year that we pointed out yesterday. Got to play Denver twice. Got to play the Mavs. Got to play Memphis. So if you can't get wins against Indiana, even with Devin Booker leaving in the third quarter, if you can't get wins against Detroit, what am I supposed to do with that? Why wouldn't I suggest? Why wouldn't I say, hey, you know what? Blow it up. Go get some assets and rebuild this thing. Tear it down. This isn't working. Matt Ishbia is not going to continue to run the highest payrolls in the game and pay the tax bill and be a second apron team over and over and over again if this team can barely finish a regular season. Not going to do it. It's not good business. It's not good basketball. So when are we going to pull the plug? When is this experiment going to be over? Is it going to take another 25-game stretch where we deal with this? Is it going to take us getting to the All-Star break and this team still putzing around? Is that what it's going to take? I don't know. I don't know when you're going to decide that this isn't working. I've decided this isn't working. I'm sure some of you out there also have decided this isn't working. You're done. You're good. Every time you start to think for just a brief second, even it's a half a second, you start to think that maybe this is their chance. Last night they start the game, all three guys are out there, and you can't finish the game. What are you supposed to do? And you hate to get on players and say, oh, you're just injury prone, but these are injury-prone players. This is what we're dealing with. You're dealing with Bradley Beal, who constantly gets hurt. You're dealing with Kevin Durant, who's an older player, who's had a history of missing time. Devin Booker, now joining that list. It just is what it is. But you can't just accept it and do nothing about it. You can't accept it, be a second apron team, run this high payroll, run this high tax bill, and then at the end of the year, if it doesn't work out again, say, yeah, you know what? Just run it back. So at what point are we pulling the plug? Are we doing it in the middle of the season? Are we giving this group the rest of the year to try to figure it out? Do they get until the playoffs to try to figure it out? I don't know. They're only a half game out of not being a playoff team right now. That's how good the Western Conference is. And so, while, yeah, we've talked about get to the playoffs with the Big Three and let them get hot, they got to get there. And if we're going to constantly do this carousel of one of the Big Three at least missing time, are they going to catch Oklahoma City? Are they going to catch Memphis? Are they going to catch Houston, Dallas? Or are they going to fall closer to Sacramento and San Antonio? Or are they going to be in this mix of teams? The Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Warriors, all kind of hovering around 500 that are in the play-in tournament. That's not what we were sold. We were not sold a team that was going to compete for the play-in tournament. It's not what this team was supposed to be. And they kind of did this last year, too. They almost were a play-in team. They did just enough at the end of the year to get in to make sure that they didn't have to deal with that nonsense. This year, is that going to be the case? I don't know. And I don't think we can take this all the way to the postseason, all the way to the end of the year, of the regular season, to make the decision to pull the plug or not. You're going to have to do this by the trade deadline. You're going to have to make a determination in the next 3 weeks. And when push comes to shove, my money's on they're going to tell us that the team is going to tell us with their play and everything that's going on that probably better off blowing this up. I think that was better, Producer Corey. I think I was more reserved, more calm, more focused. I think that was better. I think that was a more measured approach than our number one of the show. Coming up on the other side, we had a 5-1 week last week, 12-6 in our last 3 weeks. So you may want to hop on board. We've got the Week 16 version of the Schubert 6, my 6 plays for this weekend in the NFL. We will do it next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back in the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. We've got you until 1 o'clock. Chris Schubert here with you. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation here today on the program. We had a 5-1 week last week. We are 12-6 over our last 3 weeks. We are hot. We are getting hot at the right time right here at the end of the season. We hope to keep that streak going. We did not make a play last night on Thursday Night Football. It's kind of been our thing lately. Wanted to sit that one out. Didn't really love that one. I don't know if I would have taken the Chargers if I made a play. Probably would have, but just didn't love it. Didn't feel it. And you know the rules. If I'm going to make a play on Thursday Night Football, it's not just going to be for 1 or 2 points. I'm putting at least 3 points on it. It's normally a 4, 5, or 6-pointer if we do it. So I didn't feel comfortable playing in that end of the water, so we didn't do it. So without further ado, we have 6 picks to make. So let's do it. This week's Schubert 6. Well, we'll start with our 1-point play. And I'll tell you this, I actually like this a lot more than just being a 1-point play. But my issue with it is there are a bunch of unknowns that could sway this, right? There are some factors that I don't have a sample size for yet. So my 1-point play is the Atlanta Falcons minus 8.5 against the Giants. And this is solely a bet against the Giants. They're just a mess. It doesn't matter who their quarterback is. Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Tim Boyle, Daniel Jones, Brian Dable, Danny DeVito. It doesn't matter. Eli Manning coming out of retirement. It doesn't matter. They are a mess. Their offensive line is a mess. They have one good wide receiver. Their defense isn't very good. And last week, they were at home against the Ravens. The Ravens were 16-point favorites on the road, and they covered easily. You're at home. Vegas thinks you're a 3-point touchdown, a 3-score underdog, and you don't even play competitive football. You're done as a team. You're done. You're going to change the head coach at the end of the year. You're probably going to change the GM. There's going to be a new quarterback in town. You're changing everything. Wholesale changes. And so with that being the case, do I expect the Giants to be able to put up a ton of effort? No, not really. But the Atlanta Falcons are starting a rookie quarterback. And I think if Kirk Cousins was playing, I would be very comfortable laying the 8.5 here, even with Kirk. So the fact that it's Michael Penix, I probably should move this a little bit higher. But it is a big number. It's a rookie quarterback. But what I love about this is I think they're going to do all the right things here. They're going to lean on the running game. They're going to make it easy for Michael Penix. And if they do that, I think they win the game easily. Because the Giants haven't shown me. I know both of their wins this season are on the road, and they surprised Seattle earlier in the year, so it's possible. And so that's what I'm kind of hedging against here with my 1-point play. But I just think Michael Penix is going to provide a spark to this team. I think there are some in that building that probably felt like they were spiraling out of control with Kirk. And so just Michael Penix being under center should re-energize this group. And so I think you get a better effort. So I will take Atlanta as my 1-point play, minus 8.5 against the Giants. You know who one of the worst teams is against the spread this year? It's the Cleveland Browns. They're 3-11 overall on the season. Against the spread, they are 4-10. Very bad against the spread this year. I've been riding this team the last couple of weeks. They've needed every single game we've taken them in. They are going to need every single game the rest of the way. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals minus 9 against Cleveland. The one thing I have said about this Bengals team is against bad opponents, their defense plays better. It's not great, but they play better. Their offense has been their one constant. Doesn't matter who they play. Good team, bad team, team in the middle. The offense shows up. We got reports. All the important players full steam ahead this Sunday for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cleveland making a quarterback change, DTR. I am not going to get the Jameis Winston pick 6 that I normally get every single week, but I think DTR is a downgraded quarterback. The Browns haven't been good against the spread this season, 4-10 against the spread. Give me Cincinnati minus 9 against the Cleveland Browns. My 3-point play. George Pickens isn't going to play. They're coming off that bad loss against the Eagles. The Ravens have doomed me a bunch this year. So why on earth would I touch this game? You may be asking. This may be some hubris on my part. Because we're having a good stretch. 5-1 last week, 12-6 overall. Maybe I'm tempting the gods a little bit. Maybe I'm tempting fate a little bit. I just think that this is Baltimore's moment. I know the Steelers are 10-4 against the spread. I'm going directly against them this season. They're the second best team against the spread in the league, only behind the Broncos, who are 11-4 after losing last night. I think Baltimore knows they lose this game, they just concede the AFC North title to Pittsburgh. They want that home playoff game. They want to show that they belong in the same conversation as the Bills, that they belong in the same conversation as the Chiefs. Well, in order to do that, you have to win games like this. Lamar Jackson is healthy. Derrick Henry is healthy. They're coming off a relatively easy performance against the Giants where they weren't in a dogfight for all 4 quarters. They just got the job done. And so I'm not a big believer in this Steelers team. I'm just not. They haven't been able to do it against the creme de la creme. So give me Baltimore -6.5 against Pittsburgh as their statement. I'll tell you this, though. If I don't win this bet, if I don't cover this, the Chiefs are currently on the list. The Chiefs are on the list right now of I will not bet them. The Ravens will be added to that list if I do not win with the Ravens this week. Our 4-point play, we have to go all the way to Monday Night Football because it's a big number. It's 14. Give me the Pack against the Saints. Saints are without Derek Carr. They're traveling on the road, cold, Lambeau Field. The Packers have just been a machine the last couple of weeks. I just don't see how this game's close. It's 2 touchdowns, right? It's not just 2 scores. It's 2 touchdowns that you need. But what are the Saints bringing to the table? I know they kept it close against Washington, but that was at home. They made a quarterback change. They're going to Spencer Rattler, I think, this week as their starter. It doesn't matter. Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener. It's not Derek Carr. They don't have Alvin Kamara. You're telling me that team is going to go on the road and keep it close and competitive against a Green Bay team in the cold weather in Lambeau Field late in the season? Not happening. It's just not happening. The Saints are not a good team at this stage of the season. They're without some very key offensive players. They don't have the talent to keep up offensively. The cold weather is also a factor. Give me the Packers -14 against the Saints. One of the best teams against the spread this season. They are 5-1 against the spread on the road. They are 9-4-1 against the spread all season long. They're 12-2 overall. They're 6-0 on the road. They're not supposed to be a good road team. It's supposed to be where they have their flaw. It's where when you get Jared Goff outside of Detroit, outside of a dome, he's not very good. I'm not afraid one bit. Give me the Lions -7 against the Bears. The Bears going in the complete wrong direction. They've made coaching changes. They've made a coordinator change. They've changed everything that they could. Their interim OC is now their interim head coach. I think he's proven that he's not the guy to take over long-term. Caleb Williams is starting to take steps backwards. They are a team that is ready for the season to be over. The Lions are now in a fight. They have to not only hold off the Eagles, but they have to hold off the Minnesota Vikings. And I think they galvanize as a group. I know I said earlier in the show I'm a little worried about these injuries piling up for them. But not this week. Not against the Bears team that isn't very good. Not against the Bears team that is counting down the days until the season is over. Not against this group. Not on the road. Give me the Lions -7 against the Chicago Bears. I said earlier that the Sunday night game could be in play. It is in play. It is our 6-point play. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -4 against the Cowboys. I know the Cowboys have played better. I know the Cowboys have been impressive, at least relatively speaking, with Dak Prescott sidelined. The season didn't completely spiral into the dumpster fire that we've come to expect out of Dallas. But let's just look at this. They've won 3 of their last 4. They beat the Commanders. Okay, that's impressive in that wild, crazy game at the end. They beat the Giants. They beat the Panthers. It's the same team that lost to the Falcons. The same team that lost to the Bengals. So, yeah, they've won 3 of their last 4. Yeah, they're 6-8 on the season. Yeah, their season hasn't completely unraveled to the point of it being a complete mess. But you know what? The Bucs are a good team. And the Bucs need the game. So give me the Bucs -4 against Dallas. So to recap, For the social media audience, we will put this out on all of the KDUS 1060 socials. We put this on YouTube. We put it on Twitter. We put it on Instagram, TikTok, all the social media platforms. We post some clips from the show, and the Schubert 6 is always our Friday release. So for the social media audience, here we go. Our 1-point play, Atlanta minus 8.5 against the Giants. I think the energy level increases with Michael Penix under center, and the Giants are a mess. Doesn't matter who's quarterbacking for them. Cincinnati minus 9 against Cleveland. Cleveland making a quarterback change. Cincinnati has played well with their season on the line. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I do still think they are hot down the stretch, so they cover the 9. Baltimore minus 6.5 against Pittsburgh. I just think this is the statement game for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. The Pack minus 14 against the Saints. The Saints, backup quarterback, no Alvin Kamara, traveling to Lambeau Field. The cold, I think the Pack cover the 14 pretty easily. The Lions minus 7 against the Bears. The Bears are counting down the days for the season to be over. I'll take the Lions to hold off the Eagles and the Vikings for one more week and cover the 7 against the Bears. And my 6-point play, the Bucs minus 4 against Dallas on Sunday night. So there you have it, our 1-point play, the Atlanta Falcons, all the way up to our 6-point play, the Bucs minus 4.5 against Dallas. That is the Week 16 Schubert 6. Hopefully we can continue our good run that we've been on, 12-6 over the last 3 weeks, 5-1 last week, a big week last week, our best week to date here on the show, making picks. So we will recap that on Monday on social media. Again, we are out next week here for the holidays in terms of doing shows, but stay tuned to the social media channels for some content over the holiday break. On the other side, we will get back into the show. We've got the leftovers. We've got Christian Walker to discuss. We talked about it a little bit in hour number 1. We'll jump back into it here to close the show. That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Back to wrap up the final lunch break of the week. We appreciate you joining us all throughout the week here on the show. Very much appreciated. If you missed anything, you can always podcast the show. Just search The Lunch Break wherever you get your podcasts. Every hour of the show is podcasted all throughout the week, so you can catch up on anything that you missed. You can also head on over to the YouTube page, KDUS AM 1060 over there. Got a lot of content. You can also see the video version of the show, so all of that is over there as well. So we appreciate you consuming the content however you may be doing it. Want to dive back into It's a different version of the leftovers. This is a leftover story from earlier in the show that we talked about that I do want to dive back into because we opened the show with it. I think it's only right to close the show with it because maybe you haven't heard. I'm assuming that you have at this point. But if you haven't, Christian Walker, Diamondback no more, signed a 3-year, $60 million deal with the Houston Astros today. That deal finalized just as we got on the air today. So the Christian Walker plan of him potentially coming back to be the first baseman for the Arizona Diamondbacks, that is off the table. That is not going to happen. He is now going to be the first baseman in Houston for the next 3 years. And I had a bunch of emotions about it to start the show. I understand if you're angry. I understand if you're upset. I understand if you're frustrated that the Diamondbacks weren't willing to go to that level. We don't know what they offered, if they offered anything. That information has yet to come out. We do know that the Yankees were interested, but they did not want to give up a draft pick to sign him, so that was the holdup there. The reason why they didn't really go further down the road with Christian Walker, because he had the qualifying offer attached to him, so there's draft pick compensation that will be heading towards the Diamondbacks for that to be the case. So it's not all bad news. There's a draft pick that's coming back that should be slotted a little bit after the first round, so a chance to infuse some talent into the system, into the prospect system for the Diamondbacks, but they now have a hole to fill, officially. They have an offensive hole to fill. They have 30-plus home runs to replace. They have Gold Glove caliber defense to replace. They have a middle-of-the-order bat to replace. That is the task that now sits in front of Mike Hazen. There is no reunion with Christian Walker. There is no pathway for him to come back. He is gone. And you may have wanted them to bring back Christian Walker at that price when you heard it. I'm the same way. I think that should have been relatively on the table. But this team spent $173 million, at least according to Fangraphs, last year. We've been told that they will be around that number this year. Their current allotment of dollars is about $149 million. That leaves them with about $24 million to do everything that they wanted to do this offseason. So if they sign Christian Walker to that exact deal, if they put that same deal in front of him, and I think if they did, he would have come back. So if they put that deal in front of him and he came back, they would then have $4 million to address the DH, to get another high-leverage reliever, to do any of the other things that Mike Hazen may want to do this offseason. So that would then require us to go back to another conversation that we had. Trading Jordan Montgomery, eating half the money to just free up some cap. Trading Zach Allen to free up that $14 million that he's expected to get in arbitration. That's the only way you then free up enough resources to do everything else. So the Diamondbacks were limited into what they were able to do. And so they ultimately decided that they feel, this is what they're saying, that they can put together a better roster with the resources that they have, let's just call it the $24 million, than they would have by bringing back Christian Walker. That they can field a better team using that $24 million and spreading it around to maybe a lesser option at first base, but also getting that high-leverage reliever, also landing maybe a DH or an outfield option, adding more to this team. They feel that that $24 or so million is better used spreading it around to all of those needs and taking a little bit of a decrease in what you're getting out of the first base spot than it would have been bringing Christian Walker back on a 3-year deal and then figuring out the rest. It's a fair bet, but that's the bet they made. So here's the challenge. They got to go get it done. They have to make the moves that put together what needs to be considered a better roster. Because we have said it's okay that you're sitting on the sidelines. It's okay that you're being patient. It's okay that you're waiting for the market to materialize. Christian Walker's now off the board. The first base market's now going to move. Because if the Yankees aren't interested in Christian Walker because of the draft pick, they're not going to be interested in Pete Alonso because of the draft pick. So they're going to be going after Paul Goldschmidt. They're going to be going after Carlos Santana. Those are some of the same players that you are going to be interested in at the first base spot. So you now no longer can sit on the sidelines. The patience now worn off. There needs to be action. There needs to be activity. They did do one thing yesterday. Christian Pache signed to a minor league deal to the team, outfielder, former top prospect, considered one of the top prospects in baseball just a few short years ago, known for a really good glove, really good defensively. The question always was, could he hit at the big league level? And so far, the answer to that question has been no. But I think what you're seeing from the Diamondbacks is they're adding to their outfield depth. They are adding options so that if they do move a big league outfielder to address one of these needs, that they have in-house options, depth to replace those guys at the big league level. But the question with Pache has always been, could he hit? So far, the answer to that question is no, but still a young kid, still has an entire career in front of him. So maybe the Diamondbacks see something that they feel they can tweak and get a little bit more offensive production out of him to go with the stellar defense. So there has been some activity for the Diamondbacks. It hasn't checked off any of the major boxes, but they've at least done something that we can talk about here on the show. But there needs to be activity. They need to go out, and if a reunion with Paul Goldschmidt, bringing him home, is part of the play, you need to be proactive. If the idea is Carlos Santana, switch hitting first baseman, who's still at his advanced age is providing some value, okay, go make that happen. But you have to start doing something. And so I am going to, despite my frustration and despite being on record, I would have given Christian Walker that deal and I would have tried to figure it out. I would have traded Jordan Montgomery and have eaten as much of the salary as I was willing to eat, while also creating resources for me to use to spend on this roster. I would have entertained trading Zach Gallen to free up $14 million. I would have done everything in my power to bring back Christian Walker, trade those guys, free up that salary, because the salary is almost just as important as the prospect return or the player return that you would be getting. And then I would have taken those resources and maybe signed a back part of the rotation starter. And then I would have been able to get the DH. I would have been able to get the high leverage reliever arm. And I would have been able to have the best of both worlds. That's the path I would have taken, considering the restraints that we know that are on this team and what resources they have available, what levers they can pull to try to field a better team in 2025. That's what I would have done. So despite that being what I would have done, I'm not going to get on Mike Hazen. I'm not going to get on the Diamondbacks just yet. Not fully, at least. Again, frustrated? Yes. I think they should have done it. But there's still a whole offseason. And so they get the benefit of the doubt for us to let them see this process through. Let's see what they do by the time the offseason is over. Have you ever seen the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner, where he's the general manager of the Browns? He starts the movie by trading for the first overall pick, mortgaging his future. He ends the night with his original pick back, the original picks he gave up back, and a whole bunch of players. It's a movie, but the premise throughout the movie is just wait. There's a scene in the movie where he goes to the owner, give me 5 minutes, and then in 5 minutes, if you want to fire me, fire me. The head coach in the movie. He goes to the head coach in the movie. And he says, just wait till I'm done for the evening, and then if you want to quit, quit. That's the approach we need to take with the Arizona Diamondbacks. If we want to be frustrated, at the end of this, after we see what they do, after we see what their plan is at first base, after we see what their plan is at DH, after we see what their plan is for a high leverage reliever, after all that's done, if we're still upset, if we still don't think they filled the holes correctly, then yes, we can be upset. Then it's okay for us to be frustrated. But the rest of the offseason needs to play out. Paul Goldschmidt's still available. And by the way, what we've learned is they weren't going to play in those waters for Christian Walker. They weren't considering him a $20 million player. So the top end of the first base market, Christian Walker or Pete Alonso, if their prices came down, off the table, not happening. So Paul Goldschmidt, Carlos Santana, the options that are clearly more financially reasonable to the Diamondbacks, both those guys are still available. So all of that is still an option. So let's see it through. Let's see what they end up doing. But Christian Walker is no longer part of the plan. Whether it was the plan A or whether they just position themselves as, if his market doesn't materialize the way that he wants, we can swoop in and bring him back. That is off the table today. Off the table. Christian Walker, Houston Astros, 3 years, $60 million. Lower than where I thought it was going to come in. I thought at least $375. There were the reports out there that it might need to be $400. It came in at $360. Now, what the Houston Astros are doing, trading for Isaac Paredes, signing Christian Walker, letting Kyle Tucker go because they don't want to pay him, I'm going to need somebody to sit me down and explain that one to me. I don't get that one. I personally don't understand what they're thinking there. But now the Diamondbacks know their fate. Christian Walker's not coming back. They have a hole to fill at first base. Maybe they just get a right-handed platoon and they go with Pavin Smith. I've outlined why I don't think that necessarily should be the right course of action. But the entire offseason is there. The reliever market isn't really moving all that much. The DH market is still there. So now we need to let the Diamondbacks show us what their plan B is, what their pivot is. The Yankees lost Juan Soto. They pivoted. Fans love the pivot. Devin Williams, Max Fried, Cody Bellinger. The Red Sox tried to sign Max Fried. They're working on Corbin Burns. Those things haven't really materialized. Fried goes to the Yankees. What's their pivot? We're going to trade for Garrett Crochet. Their fan bases love their pivots. Let's see what the pivot is for Mike Hazen and the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we'll see if we love it as well. Great week of shows in the books. We appreciate you. Hope everybody enjoys next week. Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy Christmas. Producer Corey, thanks to you for all you do. That is going to do it for us here on this edition. Everybody make it a great rest of your Friday and your holidays. We'll see you